Hi guys, welcome to Geeks 40k. My name's Pete. I'm just going to be taking you through a bit of a few painting guides. There was a few comments about painting the Tyranids the way I paint them. First and foremost, I picked this because it used to be the old Gene Stealer colours, purple with blue carapace and with a splash of red. I've done the entire army like that now, so it's looking quite nice. I've called them High Fleet Hades, just because it's a god of the underworld. Pretty nice. Yeah, they're looking pretty nice. So I'm going to take you through step-by-step guides on how to paint a Carnifex. So we've got a Carnifex in bits at the moment. The first thing I would suggest really is definitely paint your Tyranids in bits if you can get away with it. I wouldn't bother with Hormigans or Termagants just because they're sort of cannon fodder, and as long as they look okay, it's fine. But with the bigger monsters, you want to take a bit more time with them. So I paint them all in bits, and I'll show you how to go about it. What you're going to need to paint the purple, so we'll start on purple first, because I always do the undertone, the sort of fleshy bits of the Tyranids first, and then moving on to the carapace, and then move on to the fine details. So the colours you're going to need for the purple, really straightforward, is you're going to need Nagaroth Knight, Xerios Purple, or Xeros Purple, however you pronounce it, but that purple, whatever. Then you're going to need Gene Stealer Purple, and the idea basically is to put a layer down of Nagaroth Knight, just to give it that sort of deep purple, deep dark purple. Then this is going to be your overall colour, the Xeros Purple. It's just sort of, it's just slightly lighter than the Nagaroth. And then you're going to be highlighting with Gene Stealer Purple. I did start, the first few I did majority Gene Stealer Purple, but they looked a little bit too pink. So I've toned it down a little bit for the sake of my purposes of my army. So all we're doing with that is really dry brushing them over it, and then just a final highlight to some of the raised areas. So you're also going to need a big paintbrush. That's just for filling out all the big gaps. Standard one, standard just normal paintbrush, which is pretty standard. And then a fine detail brush, which I'll show you the reason why you need that later on. And obviously you're going to need some water and something to clean your brush off. Now, first and foremost, you'll figure out sooner or later, but I'm a very lazy painter. I paint straight from the pot. I don't use a palette, and I don't water my paints down. I know it's a really bad habit. It's just a habit I've gone into, and it's just the way I do things. So if you want pro tips, watch the Games Workshop guy. If you want to sort of quickly get your models in the condition I get them in to be tabletop, keep watching. So without further ado, let's get some painting done. Okay, for ease, I'm going to show you how to do everything on this part, and the rest of it is exactly the same for all the little bits and the head and the Twin Link Devour with Brain Leech. As there's a video coming up soon which will show you how to convert this, because actually a conversion. This is the one on this Carnifex is the one from Forge World, and this is the one I've converted using Carnifex bits. So it's not a million miles away. It requires a bit of green stuff, and that's about it really, just clipping and green stuff. But I'll show you how I did it in another video. But for now, I'll show you how to paint my Carnifex. This bit is dead straightforward, and it's pretty obvious what I'm going to be doing. I'm literally just going to be getting Nagaroth Knight, painting it fairly generously onto the model. The good thing about the Tyranids is that you don't have to be particularly neat, which is one reason I quite like painting them. Whereas like Space Marine or an Eldar or a Tau, for example, they've got very rigid armour plates, and you have to be very delicate about where you paint, because if you if you go over the lines or into a groove, it can ruin the effect of the model. But with Tyranids, because they're organic, it can just sometimes just look like a blemish on the skin, which makes it really relaxing to paint. I find it's the reason why I've got, even though I'm on my probably 100th Tyranid, I still don't find them that boring to paint, which I know a few Tyranid players will understand the fatigue of painting Tyranids. The other reason why I picked purple and blue is because, without a doubt, they're my favourite colours to paint. So I thought, if I'm going to do an army that is predominantly two colours, I'm going to have to make sure it's a colour I enjoy painting, and aesthetically it's going to be pleasing to me. So basically all we're doing is we're going all over the fleshy bits. Try not to get, you don't need to get worried too much about the carapace, because we're going to be going over that with a black later, but I'm a bit of a neat freak, so I always try and keep it away from that, so I don't have to do any extra paint that I don't want to. So anyway, I'll come back once this is done. Okay, now the purple is all done, the dark purple is all done, so it's on. As you can see, Naggaroth Night is really dark, so it's almost a black, but it's just got a purple twinge to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use Zerus Purple. It's going to be different every time I say this. Give it a good shake. And then for this, need to edit that. Now, at this stage of the model, I'm going to be using just a standard brush, only because the Naggaroth Night is really meant to go into the deep crevices, whereas this purple is going to be going just around the edge. So what we're going to be looking for is, instead of going right into the deep sections there, we're just going to be painting this as a solid colour, so not a highlight, but it will just be on the high raised areas. So you'll see what I mean. So some paint. So as you can see, what that's doing is it gives you a natural highlight. On the ribbon, you see what I just did then. I literally, the paint is, I've got quite a lot of paint on my brush, but if I flick it across the ribs like that, it creates a natural highlight. So the Naggaroth Night is in the deep sections, and this is right across the top. So basically you want to do that across the entire model. And again, you don't have to be particularly neat, but you've got to be neater than you were with the other paint, and it gets progressively more tricky as you get towards the final finish you want to go for. So, right, continue this, and we'll be back once that's finished. And now, as you can see, we've got second layer of purple done. So it's again, you can actually see now it's purple, and we're starting to get to that sort of finish. So if you look at these two legs, very similar. So all we need now is to bring that top coat up and give it a highlight. So one thing I should have mentioned as well is that this is actually a layer paint, and layer paints are slightly transparent. So that's the reason why we did the base of Naggaroth Night quite thick, because that was a base paint. So that basically gives a solid cover, but these are always slightly transparent, so it just adds a layer of depth to them basically. So right, now we're going to move on to the Genestealer Purple section. Okay, now you've got the second coats done. So as you can see, it's starting to look a little bit more purple, and the the undercoat of Nagaroth Night has just given a nice shade to those sort of sections. So you can see the raised area. So now what we're going to do is we're going to enhance that even further by doing a dry brush with Ginseng Purple. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a very small amount of Ginseng Purple, and we're just going to pick out all the high bits around the eyes, just to make them really pop out, so you really got a real definition of them. So you can't particularly see it in this light because fortunately the light in my house is not particularly amazing, which is a good tip. Paint in the day if you can. But as you can see, just getting all those edges. So, and I will do the eyes at a later date, but as you can see, that's all purple done basically. So I'm going to use just this on most of the model. I'm probably going to pick out a few of the back edges across here. Now the purple is done, we're going to move on to the blue. So what this is just a feathering technique, which basically uses 4 blues, and you start with quite a large amount of blue, and then work your way down basically. So I'll just show you how to do this. So we need 4 colours. Cantor blue is going to be the base colour, so it's the darkest blue. We're going to do Mccrack Blue, so just bring it up, and then Teclis Blue is just going to be across the edge, and then finally Hoth Blue, or however you pronounce it, and that's just going to be the final highlight basically. So I'll show you how to do that now. So what we're going to be doing with the Cantor Blue, just going to get some on the paintbrush, and with this we're just going to be driving it all the way back down. So the reason we're using a small detail brush is just to, it'll give a little stipply effect at the end, so make it look like bone. So just keep doing that. And we do that across all the model, with all the carapace sections. So as you can see on the finished one, the actual blue starts here, which is what I'm painting at the moment. Then we're going to move down, do a slightly less on Mccrack Blue, then the other blue, and then the highlight basically. So it's going to give that nice blended effect. So I'll show you how to do the second blue when I've come back on, when I've done this one. Okay, so now as you can see now, all the Cantor Blue is done. So all of these have just all let me add a stipple in, all down here and all around here. You'll notice that I've painted the base layer of red as well. That was just to keep my sanity ready, because once you've done this fine detail brush all over a Carnifex size model, it drives you a little bit crazy. So what we'll do now is we're going to move on to Mccrack Blue. That's just slightly lighter than the Cantor Blue. It's also a base paint as well, so you're going to get a good solid colour with it. And all you're going to be doing is basically painting a little bit further down here, and just leaving a little bit of Cantor Blue sticking out, so you can. So it gives you a nice blend into the black. So I'll show you how to do that now. So straight from the pot, because as you're going to find out, and just mentioned on a few occasions, I'm very lazy painter, so all you're doing is leaving about 1 millimetre of space. You can leave a little bit more on the larger sections, but all you're doing is raising that colour up to make it look. There you go, and let's just raise that colour a little bit above that one, as you can see. And if all you do that is do that on every single panel like you did before, take you a little bit less time because you put a little bit less paint on, and then we move on to the next colour, and it's as simple as that. Okay, with that layer you can see just brought that blue out a lot better. So you can just see it's just a little bit brighter than it was before. You start to see the definition of those armour plates. So what we're going to work now is basically the exact same again, but this time this is the important colour because this is the one that really makes it pop. So this is Teclis Blue, And again, just give it a quick shake, and then all we're doing is and a bit of dust on it. Okay. So you can see that's much brighter. And again, we're putting nowhere near as much on this time because these big plates are quite large. You can be fairly generous because we've got another coat to go. We can pretty much do as many coats as you like. You could either blend some of these colours together to make it even blend even better, but I feel four little colours of this is enough for me, to be honest with you. But obviously anyone who's going for Gold Demon or any high level paint won't be watching one of my videos anyway. So okay, so as you can see, that one of our plates really starting to stick out now, and we do that for the rest of the model as we did before. So it progressively gets quicker and easier because you're putting less paint on. So once you've passed this, you're way past the halfway point of doing the blue. So keep it up, and we'll move on to, I'll paint this now and we'll move on to the last colour. Okay, with that layer, as you can see, all these ridges really start to snip out. As you can see it on the side and tail, you can really start to see the definition of those plates, and you can see with the finished product how close they are now. So all we're going to do now is do one final highlight. So all we're going to be doing now is picking up the very edges of the armour, just to picking up the definition of just to make them look a little bit sharper. For this, we're just going to be using Hoff Blue. It might be worth noting at this stage, the reason why I paint, especially Tyranids in separate bits, is because they've got all these intricate pieces that you can't, it's difficult to get under the right pieces, and especially the purple bits, the fleshy bits, it's quite difficult to get into them if they're all built up, especially the Carnifex was a nightmare. So with Hoff Blue, you just get a really small amount of paint. It's a bit of a pile away, so see what I'm doing. Okay, just getting picking an edge up there. Just really brings that panel out even further. So again, we do go all the way around this model and do that, and then the blue is done and the purple's done. Then we just need to do the red and the fine details, which are the easiest bit of the model. And with that, the blue is done. So all these carapaces are done. The purple's done. So the majority, as I said before, the majority of the model is done. Oops. So at this point, you could actually probably glue it together if you wanted to, because you've done the majority of the fiddly bits under here. So. But I like to keep it separate anyway, so all I need to do now is to do the red. So as I mentioned earlier, we've done a base coat of just red gore. I've just basically painted that with normal, and I just need to pick out all these spines and also paint the tongue in red gore as well. So we'll do that, and then there's just a few easy stages left now to finish this model, and then we can just glue it all together and it's ready for the battlefield. We can move on to the red. And I mentioned earlier in the video, I've already done a coat of red gore, just so it actually is fully painted basically. So right, so I've just done red gore all over it. So what we're going to do now is just going to use a bit of Mephiston red. Let's give that a shake. Bit more of a shake. Okay, right. Now what we're going to be doing is, say, this bit's nice huge bit of red here. So all we're doing, as you see, that's quite a dark red there. So again, what we'd really be doing is very much the theme to this model. It's just to start with dark colours and then build them up to give a nice amount of depth. So So the red gore goes all over it, whereas the Mephiston red is a really bold colour. What I like to do is make sure the edges have a good coat of paint, especially the ends where it's nice and sharp. Probably shouldn't be using a fine detail brush for this, but as I've said many times, I'm a lazy painter, and I know I've got to do these tiny bits on the Carnifex in a second, so saves getting another brush out. So okay, so all we're doing is just picking up those edges around there, and basically that's it. So when it dries, it's going to you can still see some of the red gore through that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to throw a line highlight all the way down that edge there with Wild Rider Red, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, and with that coat done, we are almost there, guys. So all we need now is one more colour on the red, which I use Wild Rider Red just because I like the contrast and the sort of brightness that you get from this colour. So what I'll do now is, still using the fine detail brush, take a very small amount. Hopefully you can see this. What we're doing is using the brush, I'm going to be picking up the edge, just running it like that. A bit like we were doing before with the blue, but what we're doing on this is just picking up that edge of this colour. This takes a little bit of painstaking, but as you can see, it goes on really bright, but then it dries. It dries fairly okay, and if you go over to too much, it's really easy just to put some Mephiston red back over it, or you want to, I've done it on some, is just water the Mephiston red down, and it creates a nice little blend actually. So I did that on my Hive Tyrant, which Carnifexes aren't as important as the centrepiece as your Hive Tyrant, so to that extra step. So yeah, so that's all we're going to do. So almost finished that. See, I've just gone a bit too much there, so I'm going to tidy that up in a second. But yeah, so do that all over the red bits around these edges here, and on the hoofs. We'll be just picking these out. In fact, I'll show you how I do my hoofs. Just pick a nice little line where that stands out. And there you go. So that is it. And then one last section to do, which is going to be the face, which is the teeth and the yellow. But I won't bother showing you how to do that. I'll just tell you. I'll just do it until you have done it. So one Carnifex painted up. All we need to do now is put it all together and put it on a base, which I'll do in. I'll show you a base how. Start again. Okay, right. Now one Carnifex done and painted. Total painting time was about 2 hours, I think. Just the first one sitting back here, he took me quite a bit longer because he was my first monstrous creature. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. But yeah, he's got about 2 hours. There's a few more things I need to do on him before he's finished. Obviously, put him together. I'm also going to be painting up these arms, but I'm going to paint that up separately because I'm going to convert the left arm. So keep watching for that. There'll be another video straight after this one where I show you how to convert that, and then what I'll do is I'll put it all together with the base, and then we're good to go. So, but just quickly before I go, the way I did my face is I start the teeth off with a coat of white scar. White scar. The reason why we start with white scar is just because it's undercoated black, it just brings them out, makes them a little bit brighter. Then I did look how old this paint is, guys. A bleached bone. It's still working perfectly, so if anything broke, don't fix it. Never ever bought another bleached bone. So then, and then I use a Agrax just to get in the gaps of the teeth. So looks pretty nice. And the eyes, you can't really see the eyes of the here on this video just because the light in here is not ideal for filming. But what I use for this is I start with a base coat of Everland Sunset. So that should have it goes down nice, and then I use another old paint, a golden yellow, which is, as you can see, a much brighter. So on my Hive Tyrant, I have just done a little white spot as well. But like I said, you can go a bit mad on every model if you want. But I sort of I get my monstrous creatures to a very good, well, what I think is a very good standard. My Hive Tyrant and my HQ choices, like my Broodlord, I took a little bit extra time on them, and then with my Termagants and Hormagaunts, I scale it all back. So the purple on my Hormagaunts and Genesteers only has 2 coats of purple, so I don't even bother with Nagaroth Knight. I go straight to Xerox purple and then Genesteer the purple. And then the same with the blue. I only do 2 coats of blue on my Genesteers and Hormagaunts and Termagants because you've got to paint 20 at a time with them. So yeah, so that is it. So if you like this video, please comment below, subscribe, and there'll be more painting videos from myself and the other members, and you'll soon see these guys in battle. So hopefully 2 Carnifexes, both with Brain Leech Devourers, should be pretty tasty. They'll be kicking out 24 twin linked strength 6 shots each, and they're still pretty tasty in close combat as well. So between them they have 8 wounds, and yeah, it should be pretty tasty. So fingers crossed I'll have more luck with these guys than I've been having with my Tyranids so far. So